We used to have a meme at the Young Turks office, me and this other producer. We would just like yell out article titles that were insane and then go, Vice! Ironically, like we would just be like, we got hipsters in Ghana to dumpster dive for crocodile. Vice! Oh, this is a crazy, if this is the story I'm thinking of, it's a crazy one. Hold on. So here's some additional stuff to talk about. Number one, I have officially outlived Vice Media, which is kind of crazy. Because I was at the Young Turks when Vice Media was sold to Rupert Murdoch for a whopping, like, I think it was the valuation originally was like $1 billion. At the time, I thought, oh my God, like, this is such a fucking ridiculous expense. Stop adding Vice. Stop saying smoking on that Vice pack. A lot of wonderful people work there, okay? I know a lot of people that work there. There were some sick people that worked there. Sure, did some of them write about how, you know, maybe Saudi needs to do worse stuff in Yemen? Yes. Okay. But, like, ultimately, a group of Vice lenders set to purchase the embattled company's assets for $225 million and take on significant liabilities listed at $500 million to $1 billion, according to a filing in the New York Times federal court. I was there. I know a secret. What is that? The secret is that Shane Smith made out like a fucking bandit, dude. Fuck all those journalists, Vice the fucking CIA op. No, just like every other journalism outlet, there's like good journalists and shitty ones. Oh. I was there when Vice was originally sold to Rupert Murdoch, okay? I think it was like, what, 5% for a couple $100 million? Here it is. This is when I first started. This is literally when I first started at the Young Turks. Rupert Murdoch firm dips into hipster's Bible with 70 million stake in Vice. 5% stake sold to Rupert Murdoch's 21st Century Fox, allowing it to expand into Europe and India. Then, after that, they hyped it up like crazy. They hyped it up like fucking crazy. These guys that basically made, documentaries about doing crocodile in Russia and shit like that, got a $70 million, sold 5% for $70 million. It bumped their valuation up dramatically. Okay? It made them more expensive than the New York Times. And for years and years and years, they basically kept that hype going because this is how it always works. You get a larger buyer to tap in, and then they have to stay. Their reputation is on the line as well, so they have to legitimize. They have to legitimize your existence, and that's precisely what they did. Back then, I was doing advertisement sales and operations, so obviously, like, I was paying close attention to this stuff. I was seeing their advice, product being marketed at every one of these fucking seminars that I had to go to. And yeah, we all watched Succession. What the fuck? I'm talking about the real life experiences that I had at the time when I was doing ad ops. Vice threw a keg W and then a where. Damn, Vice. Anyway, yes, Succession is good TV because it takes a lot from the real world, and this is the real world example of what Succession was doing. My point is, Rupert Murdoch bought this at the time. We, in the media, in the digital space, thought that this was a ridiculous number. Like, we couldn't imagine it. And I was very jealous at the time, too, because Vice was so cool, and the Young Turks was not. And the Young Turks remained not cool, obviously. But at the time, I was very jealous that they were getting so much recognition. Okay? So much fucking recognition. I despised Shane Smith because I thought he was a charlatan and a grifter. So much shade law. Yeah, I mean, so you saw it coming, so much shade law? Of course I saw it coming. This has been propped up by Rupert Murdoch. Vice's valuation and Vice's bona fides have been propped up by Rupert Murdoch for the past 10 years, man. It was a decade-long con. They bought into it because they were dumb and they thought this would make them cool and hip and expand their digital properties. Then they realized, oh my God, an entire brand that's like reliant on looking cool and being cool is not always going to be cool, especially if they are under the 21st Century Fox umbrella. You can't be an edgy, cool media company if you're valued at $1 billion after Rupert Murdoch bought a $70 million stake. And that's precisely what happened. They were at the forefront of the Williamsburg hipster movement. And the only guy that won in this entire thing was Shane Smith. He exited, I think it was after the Disney acquisition too, because Disney also pumped a shitload into Vice, right? So many other brands tapped in and offered so much money to Vice. In 2019, Disney had put more than $400 million into Vice Media. Now it says that investment is worthless. A now familiar story. Investors say they overhauled a high-flying digital publisher. The amount of money that these fucking idiots in the corporate world give to a company that it presents itself as cool and as what the youth are listening to and the youth are looking at is unimaginable. Okay? Vice is still worth something in some investors' eyes. Last week, a group of lenders said they put a fresh round of $250 million into the company. But Disney's accounting decision is yet another example, perhaps the most stunning one, of the turnabout we've seen in digital media over the last few years. I basically came to exist in the digital space at a time when all of these legacy publishers were desperate to revitalize their brand and completely oblivious to how the digital world worked. Disney also made a similar idiotic, unwise investment into Maker, a MCN that no longer exists, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Does it still exist? Maker was literally across the street from me. I know a lot of people that work there. Maker as a multi-channel network was created by a bunch of YouTubers. Basically, all that happened in this circumstance. Mike was another one. Mike, which raised more than $60 million, sold for less than $5 million last year. I remember going into Mike's office on one World Trade Center and thinking, wow, these guys sure spent a lot of fucking money on dumbass shit. Mashable, which was valued at about $250 million in 2016, sold for less than $50 million in 2017. Properties formerly known as Gawker Media plus The Onion and other sites just sold for a price likely well below $50 million. Univision, the TV conglomerate which sold them off, had paid $135 million for the Gawker sites alone in 2016. The only reason why I pre-watched that shit back then is because I was in the industry and I knew that there was no way that they were making money. And yet these guys were buying into it because they thought it would revitalize their brand and probably improve their digital media assets, which it didn't. It fucking didn't. Of course it didn't. BuzzFeed is another prime example of this as well. Every single media company that has been that started off, that fucking fell into a disastrous amount of nothingness, started off with like a lot of people who were doughy-eyed and thought that they were going to make a revolutionary change in the digital sphere, realize that they can't keep up with the capitalist demands for output, sold it off and made out like a fucking bandit. Okay? They did. They sold it and they made out like fucking bandits. Shane Smith being one and all the other like owners of Maker at the time being others. Okay? Because instead, Facebook and Google have hoovered up the majority of digital ad revenue, the money new publishers expected to get once they reach scale. And publishers that had expected Facebook and Google to rely on them for content have learned that Facebook and Google don't really need them after all. That's a big part of the reason. Because, yes, Facebook and Google don't give a fuck. They don't need you. Everyone has to use them. So we need them because they're a monopoly. Here are the Disney and Vice particulars. Disney told investors Wednesday it wiped out $353 million of the money it had previously put into Vice. That followed an announcement last fall that Disney had knocked down the value of its Vice investment by $157 million. Disney describes the $353 million impairment charge it took on Vice as a write-off, which in accounting speak means there's nothing left to get rid of it after this. It's all gone. In any case, Vice is certainly worth much less than Disney and many other big sophisticated media companies thought quite recently. And I remember people were literally talking about how like Vice is better and bigger than New York Times. You know what I mean? Yeah, where are those people now? What happened? Vice, a beleaguered avatar of new media, hangs a for sale sign. This was back in January 20th, 2023. After Vice Media secured a new round of financing in 2017 that valued the company at $5.7 billion, Shane Smith, one of his founders, teased the potential for hockey stick growth and sexy stock market debut. But that once grandiose talk at Vice has run into reality. The company, which has undergone several rounds of staff cuts in recent years, is putting itself up for sale in a rocky media market. Nancy Dubik, the chief executive hired in 2018 to replace Mr. Schiff after a reckoning over workplace sexual harassment, said that the company had turned a corner and that she and the company's investors had decided to sell the company that could help it grow. We tend to be a little bit more public than most because of the curiosities and palace intrigue, but I'm going to get a job done, and we have a job to do, and I intend to do it. Yeah. It started off as a government-funded punk magazine in Canada, by the way, for the record. I think through, like, what was it, like, what is its ties to, like, Nigeria? It's in Canada, but I'm pretty sure it was, like, originally, like, a Nigerian tourism magazine or something in Canada. No, literally, they were a government funded, like through the arts or through tourism. Gavin McGinnis was one of the founders alongside Shane Smith. It was a magazine about Montreal street scenes. No, before then, like its origination, I think, was like, well, it was also free. Yeah, it was a zine. It was a free zine. I remember because I used to be like I used to be a fan of Vice. And anyway, before it was known as Vice, for the record. It was a zine, whatever. But yeah, it was free because it was funded by here. Founded in 1993 in Montreal as Voice of Montreal by Alex Laurent, Dominique Olivier. As an alternative punk magazine, the founders hired Sarosh Alvi as the editor, Shane Smith as a sales rep, and Gavin McGinnis as a cartoonist. After stealing the magazine from Alex Laurent, Shane and Gavin later launched a youth media company, Vice Media, which consists of divisions including print and magazine. I thought it was before then. I thought there was something even before then. It was like before it was the what is it, Voice of Montreal, but maybe not. Maybe I'm misremembering. They got money from the Canadian government as it was an English paper in Quebec. Oui, oui. Oui, oui. Yeah, see, the magazine was launched in 1994 as the Voice of Montreal as with a Quebec welfare grant. The intention of the founders was to provide work and a community service. When the editors later sought to dissolve their commitments with the original publisher, Alex Laurent, they brought him out and changed the name to Vice in 1996. Tabarnak. Richard Sovilinski, a Canadian software millionaire, acquired the magazine and relocated the operation in New York City in the late 1990s. Following the relocation, the magazine quickly developed a reputation for provocative and politically incorrect content. Yeah. And customers could purchase fashion items that were advertised in the magazine. However, due to the end of the dot-com bubble, the three founders eventually regained ownership of the Vice brand, followed by the closure of the stores. Gavin McGinnis left in 2008. And then at the commencement of 2012, an article in Forbes magazine referred to the Vice as Vice Media. Vice acquired a fashion magazine ID in December 2012, and by February 2013, Vice produced 24 global editions of the magazine. I wonder if I have some of the older ones that I used to pick them up for free. But yeah. They had a fun little YouTube page that I'm sure many of you have seen. I'm sure you've watched many of the YouTube videos, like their OG documentaries, travel guides, do's and don'ts, things of that nature. One of the funniest, like, we used to have a meme at the Young Turks office, me and this other producer. We would just like yell out article titles that were fucking insane and then go voice, which ironically in a situation where like they like we would just be like, we got I don't know, we got hipsters in Ghana to dumpster dive for crocodile voice, like that sort of shit, you know what I mean? And it used to be like a joke that ketamine horse traders, like that kind of shit. Exactly. And then Bill Hader did that joke. Actually, the El Chingon. You know what I mean? That was awesome. Drones, I think. The documentary Now Parody is still one of the greatest, in my opinion.
The world is nuts. No one knows what's going to happen next. But whatever goes down, we'll be there, keeping a close eye on all the madness. This is the world of drones.
This is a Vice parody from IFC. It was perfect.
Hi, I'm Jameson Friend. We're here in the drones offices in Brooklyn, New York, where our staff is working hard to bring you the real news of today's world. For this week's story, we go to Juarez, Mexico, where the war on drugs has turned this once beautiful city into the deadliest place on earth.
Wait, I want to watch the rest of it. El Chingon! I like that Vice promoted it too.